Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Friday Ramblings. It's time for the March finale. And that means, with it being one last Friday, we're going out with a bang. We're going to discuss our main man, the master of disaster, the king of getting that bling, Wario. That's right, Nintendo's answer to the evil doppelganger equation. Wario is everything Mario is not. Greedy, self-centered, kind of ugly, accused of being a little smelly, but consistently charming in that awkward, gross, toxic way. Wario has managed to rise from being a simple, one-time antagonist for Mario into an anti-hero in his own right. Now, unfortunately, because I try not to do like 3-hour-long videos, we can't discuss every single game Wario has appeared in. Because thanks to the rise of party games and sports games and things like the Smash Brothers series, Wario, being an extremely popular character and tending to show up in a lot of them, trying to list every single appearance he's ever had would be an epic encounter. So what we're going to do is we're going to focus on the games starring Wario. The ones built off him, not the general Nintendo or general Mario games where he happens to be a playable character in it. So, a little bit tighter focus. So, you don't have to devote an entire day to this video because, well, I do like to think I have a little bit of charm and appeal. I know everybody's got a lot of stuff they have to do in their lives. So, let's get to it. We're going to start off with a game that's not technically starring Wario, but it is his debut, so it is important for the sake of context. Super Mario Land 2, 6 golden coins for the Nintendo Game Boy. Yep, way back in the days of Nintendo's original portable console, they continued the theme idea of the Mario Land games diverging slightly from the NES formula, where, you know, in the first game you were rescuing Princess Daisy, who made her debut in that game, from a little alien named Tonga. This go round they decided to continue getting away from the Bowser Princess Peach formula and have Mario trying to liberate his own home, which in this particular game was a castle in its own right, from his childhood rival Wario, who had not only managed to take possession of the castle while Mario was off saving Daisy during the events of the first Mario Land game, but locked it up, requiring Mario to retrieve 6 keys from various bosses and other lackeys that Wario had hypnotized into working for him. All is said and done, Wario was beaten down. You would think, okay, he was a nice little experimental one-off villain. But something about a guy that just, you know, looked like some twisted, you know, mirror image version of Mario just really appealed to gamers, and Nintendo couldn't let the concept die. Before we get into the major series games, we're going to go over a few kind of oddball entries. First up, we had... There we go. Sorry, wrong note there. First up, we had Mario and Wario. This was more of a puzzle-style game, similar to things like the classic Lemmings game series, where Wario has put a large bucket over Mario's head while Mario was wandering through a forest, thus preventing Mario from being able to find his way out of the forest. And so you have to control a fairy who guides Mario by making little platforms and manipulating where he walks. You know, make a little stair so he goes farther down. That kind of thing. As I said, it's very similar to games like Lemmings, where your actual character you interact with, you don't control their movement directly. The challenge is in guiding their movement via manipulation of the environment. This was a very kind of an obscure game. I didn't hear about it until years after it had come out. So, you know, it's a thing. Wario would also show up in a more classic style puzzle game called Wario's Woods, which was based off the Japanese game called Panel de Pon, also known as in America as Tetris Attack. Which the Tetris Attack Americanized version also had some Mario links, as it featured Yoshi in it. But the Wario Woods version had the same mechanics as Panel de Pon, but in this one you were actually playing as Toad, trying to outwit Wario. So, again, kind of a unique game. It was a puzzle spin-off, but you're not actually playing Mario. It all kind of builds up to the idea that Wario is, at his core, kind of a jerk who will go after anybody, picking on Toad this time, which helps build up to the stuff he would do on his own, away from his rivalry with Mario. Finally, out of the early oddities one, we had Wario Blast, which was a crossover game with the Bomberman series, in which you can play either Wario or Bomberman trying to beat up the other and their allies. Wario attempting to loot Bomberman's home of Bomberland, figuring there was, a lot of good treasure and interesting stuff there. This was also a game for the original Game Boy, whereas Mario and Wario's Woods were for the NES, and I think Wario's Woods had a Super Nintendo version too. But Wario Blast brought it back to the Game Boy. I owned this game. It was a fun game, but at its core, it is very much a Bomberman game, and if you're not good at the Bomberman games, which I'm not, it's going to be really tricky to beat. But, you know, at the time, I was on a big Wario high. I was just, hey, I enjoyed the Bomberman games, even if I wasn't great at them. I liked the basic mechanics of them. So yeah, I did own Wario Blast, but I never beat it. But again, it shows that Nintendo was using Wario as a way to kind of experiment with the Mario license. And the fact they crossed over with Bomberman so early on is interesting, because Bomberman is not a Nintendo-owned property. That's why you don't see him in the Smash Brothers games. Although I don't know why you shouldn't. There's been a lot of Bomberman games on Nintendo. You would think with characters like Mega Man and Pac-Man and Sonic, who are not Nintendo-owned but have had various games on the Nintendo, you'd think Bomberman would be in on there. And he should be a natural for a game like Smash Brothers. Seriously, who's not putting him in these character polls? Why is nobody showing some love to Bomberman? I don't know. That's not our main subject today. So, let's get into the big games that people know and love. And that is the Wario Land series, which is where we really started having some fun with our pudgy not-so-pal. Wario Land, also known as Super Mario Land 3, featured Wario robbing a bunch of pirates, the Brown Sugar Pirates, led by Captain Syrup, in a Game Boy game, because as I said, things started on Game Boy and Wario has always done well with the portable consoles. Now, it should be interesting to note that Captain Syrup is for those of you who do like getting into these kind of discussions, a female. And as such, this is a very early case of a first party, you know, big hyped up, a lot of TV commercials game where you have a male antagonist going after a female protagonist. Now, it should also be known, for those of you who do want to get into this and are starting to fret, you know, about male on woman violence. Technically, when you get to the last boss fight, you do not beat up Captain Syrup directly. She summons a genie from a lamp she had in her treasure haul to fight you. You fight the genie. When you beat him, Captain Syrup runs off. So it's kind of that, like, okay, we get not everybody wants to see this, even way back here in the 90s. You know, we understood, but we don't want to just, like, completely never have female, you know, antagonists. So we're going to kind of meet you in the middle. Captain Syrup's going to be the one that's causing all the things, but you don't directly beat her up to win the game. It's a thing. I don't know. I like the boss fight against the genie. It's actually a really fun boss fight. You, because I've owned this game, I've beaten this game several times. It's one of the few games I've 100%ed. I've gotten all the little hidden extra treasures, beat all the extra levels, gotten the best ending in the game because of that. So, you know, it's a very fun game. Plays a lot like a Mario game. Wario has a couple different power-ups. So it's a thing. But yeah. Now, they did have a Virtual Boy Wario Land game, but nobody cares about the Virtual Boy. So, we're not really going to get too far into it. Next, we had Wario Land 2, in which they really changed up the formula and the mechanics of Wario by drifting farther from the Mario playstyle and introducing the idea that Wario does not actually die in the games. Captain Syrup is back, deciding to steal the treasure from Wario that he stole from her first, including flooding his castle in revenge. So Wario decides to chase her down and get back the treasure that he stole from other people, that she stole from him. As I said, there's some interesting mechanics in this game. Because Wario does not die. What happens is there's characters that will, instead of having classic power-ups, just alter the way Wario acts. Like, if you get squashed by certain, you know, big things like that, Wario will become flat, and he has better jumping, but he's very floaty afterwards. Or there's a particular enemy that will breathe a fireball at him, and Wario will catch on fire. He can burn his way through certain barriers and auto kill enemies because, you know, he's on fire and he's running into them. Obviously, you're not going to stick around and, you know, long for that fight. All leading to, you know, him eventually being set on fire for too long. He kind of turns up into ash and then returns to normal. So it adds a little bit of a puzzle element to the game because it's like, well, okay, I actually don't want to get through this transformation right now, so I have to avoid this enemy so he doesn't trigger the transformation. There's collectibles like in the first game that are optional, but the other thing is that there's actually, instead of just having extra levels in this game, there's actually full-on multiple paths, which will slightly alter what, not just ending you get, but even what bosses you face. I've never 100%ed this game. I did get to the point where I had beaten every level, because after you get to the first ending, you have the ability to access a map screen that will show you, like, okay, this is a level where you need to do something different, so instead of going down this path, you'll go down this path. It's kind of, you know, I don't have a great visual aid for it, but that's the idea, is that after you beat the game the first time, it will show you where all the alternate paths branch around, and the same map will also make a note if you found the hidden items in a given stage. I did get to the point where I'd beaten every level, but I did not find all the hidden items. So I've like 85% of that one. We go to Wario Land 3, where it's got the same indestructible mechanics. This time, Wario, he's still in pursuit of treasure. He finds a music box that pulls him into a different world, in which it's claimed that if he frees this magical being, he'll be rewarded with a huge amount of treasure. Long story short, the swerve is that this enchanted being is not actually the good guy that's been imprisoned by the bad guy, but the real bad guy who wants Wario to let him out. Wario gets kind of spiteful about being manipulated like that, and that he was lied to about getting a whole bunch of treasure, so he beats up the bad guy anyway. But, you know, he does get some treasure just from the nature of going around the adventure. I've never beaten this game. I actually, for those people very familiar with my channel, I tried playing this game on stream a little while ago and got to a particular boss maybe halfway through the game and just rage quit. This is kind of a problem in the later stage bosses in Wario Land 2 because of this indestructible mechanic. What they'll do with bosses is the boss will have the ability, one way or the other, to throw you away from them, and if that happens, you have to like trek your way back through like half the level, go back into their boss room, and start the entire fight over from beginning. And some of these bosses are very, very good at throwing you off the stage. Like, you have to play them almost perfect to beat them, and I just, that's too tight a focus for me. I just, as I said, I rage quit the game. So if you want to see some more Wario Land 3, I do have it in my playthrough archives, so you can see at least the starting part of the game. But it's the thing. Wario Land 4, which I've never played. I may be playing that again on a future stream. It's on my to-do list, but, you know. The thing about Wario Land 4 is they go back to more the classic, yes, you can die, you have health meter formula. They got away from the transformation stuff, which was good, because I feel like, especially 3, they kind of overdid it. The idea is Wario hears about a golden pyramid full of treasure, goes to the pyramid, gets talked into trying to, through the pyramid, go through all these different worlds, and beating up all these bosses that are guarding different treasures. Eventually confronts the goddess of the pyramid, the Golden Diva, and you find out at the end, in a little bit of a swerve, that the cute little black cat that told you about, you know, the goddess of the Golden Diva, goddess of the pyramid person, and that the treasure was spread out across all these different worlds, was the true goddess of the pyramid, who the Golden Diva transformed. And in one of these cases of multiple ending things, the more optional treasures you find depends on what her real form is. She can either be a tiny little child, big fat lady, kind of looks similar to Wario in build, or she can be like your classic, you know, Marilyn Monroe type maiden. So it's kind of a thing. When it's all said and done, Wario doesn't care what she looks like because he's just after treasure because he's Wario. The last game in the main Wario Land series is Wario Land Shake It, which was for the Wii. And as implies, uses Wii motion control. In this case, instead of jumping on top of enemies in that classic Mario formula, not just the enemies, but a lot of objects you interact with, it's all done by grabbing them and shaking them. Captain Syrup returns for the first time since Wario Land 2 and convinces Wario to help out the little magic fairy looking things called Murphleys in exchange for getting access to a bottomless coin sack, which does pretty much what you think. Bottomless coin sack, unlimited coins. Thus, Wario goes to the so-called Shake Dimension and beats up the Shake King, who has imprisoned the Murphley Queen and has possession of the bottomless coin sack. This was a really fun game. I liked it. It was... Honestly, my biggest criticism of it is it was a little too easy. Like, I blasted through the game. It's probably the easiest Wario game since the original Wario Land. But, when it's all said and done, Wario wins the day, gets the bottomless coin sack, but immediately after he returns to his home, Captain Syrup reappears and steals the bottomless coin sack, proving that she was just manipulating Wario all along, and their relationship is still a bit antagonistic. Although the fact he was listening to her at all shows that apparently over the years he had, kind of lessened on his disdain for her, and they apparently had not been messing with each other much lately. As I said, Wario showed up in a lot of like the Mario Parties and Mario Karts and Mario Sports games. He's had cameos in various Nintendos. Later up, we got kind of a couple spin-offs to the Wario Land series. We had a GameCube game called Wario World, where a cursed jewel, which apparently cursed by having its own evil intelligence to it, turns all of Wario's treasure into monsters who kick him out of his castle. So now Wario has to wander around getting new treasures and items to help him beat up these various boss monsters to reclaim his castle. Again, I've never played this particular game. It was one I kept kind of eyeballing back when I was, the GameCube was a more recent console. It was easier to find copies of the games. I never really had around to playing it. Partly because I had heard a lot of reviews online that said the game is, again, similar to the later released Shake It. Kind of, especially if you're not trying to 100% it. Kind of a short and easy game. And it's just kind of like, it's just a game that's there. So, I don't know. I may, maybe one day if I can track down a copy, online or something, I may buy it and play it, because I do still have a working GameCube, so it's all good. The last starring game of Wario that's kind of in the classic platform series would be Wario Master of Disguise. This was for the DS, in which Wario zaps himself inside the television so he can infiltrate a fictional TV show to get the magic wand that this thief uses, so he can use the power of the wand, specifically its disguising, transformation type powers, to get better at raiding and stealing treasure. And in the process, of course, Big Evil confronts. Wario has to deal with it. So Wario can go back to doing his treasure pilfering things. This game plays, and I did play a demo of this game. It plays similar to Wario Land 2 and 3, except now you have conscious control over your transformations. So it's kind of like a refinement of that formula, where it's, okay, we're still doing the transformation things, but it's more of you activating the transformations at certain times, not a bunch of bad guys potentially forcing you to transform when you really don't need to and stymieing you from finishing a level. So, you know, it looked interesting, but again, it was one of those things of every time I had money to get a new game, I always found something else I was a little bit more interested in. You know, so I'm not going to say there was anything wrong with Master of Disguise because I never really played it thoroughly, but it definitely, from the demo I played, felt like they took what they had done in Wario Land 2 and 3 previously, tried to bring it forward in a more refined and less frustrating form. So, good on you. And yeah, I think that was the last of the classic platformers. However, there is the WarioWare series, which is the kind of second main series featuring Wario, playing up the idea of him being greedy. Wario intermittently runs a game company, getting all his friends, who are, you know, characters created for this series, to work for him for little to no money. Designing what they call micro games. These are like little challenges that just take you a couple seconds each to do. Like, oh, tap, you know, the screen. Most of them are on the DS. I think there was in 3DS. I think there was one on the Wii U. But, you know, the whole, there may have been a couple on Wii U. I'll look at my notes in a second. But, you know, the idea is they're very touchscreen based. And it's things like, oh, you know, tap this enough times to make the guy, you know, sick to his stomach. Blah. You know, just simple, silly little things like that are more about timing and reflexes than exploring and strategy. So it's just, the games are more about practicing the games and getting really good at the games and having fun, just doing stuff that you can just, like, oh, I have a few minutes, I'll just play a couple games real quick before I have to go do this thing. And it's proven very popular. The games are fun. You know, the first time you play through most of these games, you're probably going to end up losing the games because you gotta, like, figure out exactly what it wants. It doesn't give you a lot of time to read the rules and practice. So the first time you'll play a lot of games, you'll most likely lose. But well, no, excuse me. The first two were for the Game Boy Advance, which was WarioWare Inc. Mega Micro Games and WarioWare Twisted, which were for the Game Boy Advance. And the first game was ported to the Nintendo GameCube as WarioWare Inc. Mega Party Games, which brought in multiplayer support. Yeah, it was starting with a third game. They moved to the DS with WarioWare Touched, WarioWare Smooth Moves for the Wii, WarioWare Snapped, which was for the DS, WarioWare DIY, where you could create your own mini games. Yeah, Game & Wario for the Wii U. WarioWare Gold for the 3DS, which is where they've gotten so far. Besides Wario, who gets a costume change in this one, which is his, like, which features in the Smash Brothers game. This time, instead of the classic Mario, overalls, plumber look, this is more of like a street punk biker look. He's got, the pants and the torn vest and the motorcycle helmet with the big goggles on top. He uses his costume in Smash Brothers a lot. So if you played the Smash Brothers games, you're familiar with the costume I'm talking about. But you also have Jimmy T, who's famous for his infamous afro. Mona, who is a high school student that works a lot of part-time jobs, which tends to serve as kind of the context and background to a lot of the games in the series. It's like, oh, help Mona, in her cheerleading contests. Help her, deliver pizzas. Stuff like that. Yeah, elementary student 9 Volt, who's a Nintendo fanboy. You have Kat and Anna, the kindergarten-aged ninja twins. Ashley, who's a young witch in training, along with her little demon buddy, Red. Penny, the mad scientist in training. Along with various others, depending on the exact game you're playing. So, and the Wario wears, as I said, besides the outfit showing up, there are stages based off the WarioWare series in the Smash Brothers games. And certain other spin-offs. So it's all good. And that pretty much brings us to the end here. That's your Wario for you. He's a guy that, yes, he's always maintained his rivalry with Mario. Yes, he has always been a greedy, selfish jerk. But in his platforming games, it's shown that he does have the ability to make friends and do right by his friends, and that when he goes up against bigger jerks, he is more than willing to kick their butt in the name of helping the greater good. Even if, he ends up getting tricked out of the payoff he was hoping to get, because, things happen. In the spin-offs, his rivalry with Mario is much more focused on showing that it doesn't matter what sport it is, what kind of board game shenanigans it is, Wario is always happy to attempt to show up Mario and prove who is the bigger star and the better man. Which makes him kind of an anomaly in the Nintendo series. Theoretically, you could easily plug Wario back into a classic platforming game, and he could still serve as an antagonist. But despite not having a lot of positive qualities, having just enough to make him not be truly evil, like a lot of those bigger jerks he has to beat up, and having that little bit of, sympathy generated from the fact that he rarely seems to get everything he really wants, and if he does, he very quickly loses it by the next game. He comes off like a guy you're willing to hang with, And thus, he can maintain his own games. It's one of those things. He's that buddy we all have where it's like, I knew he was never going to pay me back that money. I knew it. I loaned him the money anyway. It's my own fault if he never pays me back and just keeps making up excuses. I knew he was going to do it. I had no reason to honestly believe it, but dude, he's my buddy. He needed gas money. What was I going to do? He's that guy. He's that guy that he'll tell you every time he's going to pay you back, but he's never going to actually give you that 20 bucks back. But when push comes to shove, he'll have your back in a bar fight, and that's good enough. So Wario, we salute you, and honestly, Nintendo, if you really want to add extra temptation to me to eventually get a Switch, or whatever comes after the Switch, because, you know, as great as the Switch console is, we all know there's always going to be another hardware console coming out eventually. It's the nature of the video game business. But if you do want to tempt me to eventually keep buying new consoles, dude, classic Wario platformer game. That is the jam. So, if you want a bit more Wario, as I said, I've got a game stream, 3 episodes of Wario Land 3. Someday in the future, I will play Wario Land 4. And you are certainly encouraged to, if you have a 2DS or 3DS, grab some of the classic Wario Land games off the Virtual Console, especially the original Wario Land. Probably not 3, unless you just really like challenging games. And just having to constantly just replay this one boss over and over again until you can get that formula down just perfect. But, you know, to each their own. Heck, I mean, the Switch has the same Virtual Console service. I'm sure they've got some of those games on there too. Check them out. Hey, next time you're playing Mario Kart or Smash Brothers, give Wario World. Oh yeah, also, not only is he a playable driver in the Mario Kart series, but in multiple Mario Kart games, there are Wario-inspired stages. So, that's all good too. I'm particularly fond of Mount Wario from Mario Kart 8. Just real quick, this will be my finale. It's a very interesting stage because unlike the 95% of Mario Kart tracks, it's not an actual track that you do multiple laps on. It's you drive your cart out of the back of a plane, like the big cargo plane with the ramp, and sorry, I think I confused my autofocus there. And then you fall onto the peak of a mountain, and it's just one long race down the mountain. So it's not this thing where, like, you as I said, 90% of kart tracks where you drive past it and you're like, okay, I know I'm gonna have to deal with that tricky turn again in another minute or two on the next lap. No, it's just boom, one big race down a mountain. Very fun. Also, there's a couple variants of the Wario Stadium, which is very like dirt bike, what do they call it, BMX style tracks. Very fun too. So, that's what I'm saying. Ever since he showed up as a throwaway antagonist, he has left a huge imprint on Nintendo and the Mario games. So, check out my main man Wario. Come back in 7 days when we start our April run of Friday Ramblings. Subscribe to the channel so you can check out my game streams and everything else that we do here at Roulette Productions. You'll get your alerts so you can watch them as soon as they go live. And for now, I'm going to enjoy the rest of my day because you can see the sun is shining in the background for once. I'm recording this a little earlier in the day than most of my videos. So, go for it. Go out and enjoy the sun. I know it's a little cold in a lot of areas, but that's what we got jackets and mittens for. Enjoy yourself. Be safe. Come back in 7. And remember, don't hate. Smile, because this is all entertainment when it's all said and done. And entertainment's supposed to be fun. Bye-bye.